guys, it's Bree. It is obscenely hot out today. I was going to have a glass of wine for this, but I decided to go with a cider instead because it sounded colder. And it is delicious. So, welcome to Ladies' Night In. This is the first in a series where I talk about books written by women that you can read in a day. I wanted to start this series off going with some of the really classic women in science fiction and fantasy. I felt like that was just a really good way to start and be able to frame our future discussions. So go get yourself your glass of wine. Go on. Go to your kitchen. I'll wait. Are you ready? In keeping with the idea of going with classic women in science fiction and fantasy, I went with our first pick, which is Ursula K. Le Guin's The Word for World is Forest. And I felt like it was important to talk about Le Guin in one of the very first videos. She, if you aren't familiar with her, she is kind of one of the classic figures of feminist science fiction. She takes on topics like colonialization and gender and the otherization of different cultures, all in the same universe with human-esque aliens in what's called her Hainish cycle. The idea behind the Hainish universe, which is where this particular story takes place. The world and the universe has been populated with humanoids. And they all are essentially human, but they come in different shapes and sizes with different adaptations considering their different planetary circumstances. It's through this that Le Guin is able to really explore a lot of her different topics. Things like gender, which you see in The Left Hand of Darkness, or colonialization, which you see in The Word for World is Forest. And Le Guin is unafraid of taking these topics on, which is fantastic. She mostly wrote in the 70s, and you can kind of tell that as you read her works. And she is extremely influential, especially among current, more modern science fiction authors. Her contemporaries looked at her with a great deal of respect. And she is a staple in the canon, basically. The Word for World is Forest takes place in that same situation, in that same Hainish cycle universe. It was published in 1972, which takes place basically at the very start of some of Le Guin's best science fiction writing. This particular story involves humans expanding out from Earth. Basically what has happened is the Earth has run out of plants. That sounds kind of silly. Basically what has happened is that the Earth has run out of trees. We have used them up as a kind of a society, and now we are importing trees and lumber from other planets. The planet that the humans in this particular story are on is 27 years away. So they've been constantly shipping back lumber, but they have essentially no contact with humans on Earth. During this time, the humans do what humans kind of have always done throughout colonialization, and they take advantage of the native population, the Ethshenians. The Ethshenians are a humanoid species, but they are covered in a green fur. They speak a very high-pitched different language. They are extremely docile. They show no hostility. And they've basically been enslaved. This goes on for a number of years until an Ethshenian named Selver kind of breaks. There are a lot of conflicts and internal issues within the organization that come to light. They realize that the kind of Hainish universe has come and made a treaty with Earth, And so they now have this instant communication with Earth, but they don't know if they want to trust it. All of this interesting stuff happens. And of course, what Le Guin is really talking about this is the otherization of people who look different than us. She's talking about how we respond when we see people who are different, when those people don't behave according to our norms. She's talking about the human impulse to dominate. Is that violence inherent to us, or is it learned? What does it mean to see another humanoid species that does not have violence, and to have us as humans introduce that to them? What does that mean in turn for us? It's a very, very interesting book. And I don't know if anybody other than Le Guin could have written this quite as elegantly. This is 189 pages. It is in fairly large-ish font with big margins. At least my copy is. This is a beautiful Tor trade paperback edition. You can see it's got these gorgeous illustrations on the inside. They're kind of just watermarks on the chapters. And I'm not sure that Le Guin could have written this if she wasn't already kind of unafraid. One of the great things about Ursula Le Guin is that she wrote about hard topics. This was not the first time she had written a book that I would consider fairly controversial. At least in its message, if not in its writing, because its writing is elegant and beautiful and just touching, and it has some very humorous moments. She's very good at kind of balancing out funny and serious. But I feel like this is the kind of book that influences a lot of people. You see this kind of similar approach or thinking in a lot of our books now about colonialization and what's it going to look like when we leave Earth. I think that her influence in this book is very clear in a lot of our more recent fiction. People have talked about this as being a kind of corollary to the Vietnam War. They've also drawn a lot of comparisons to things like Avatar, which also features similar themes and approaches to those themes. This has really laid the groundwork for a lot of our discussions about environmentalism and colonialization. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about The Word for World is Forest. I hope you're having a fantastic reading week. Let's have a big cheers for Le Guin. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.